Let's get started because we're on a tight schedule. I'm Kent Stewart, Director of University Relations, and we are honored to have with us this morning Dr. Gregory Mosier, who is a finalist to become the next president of Fort Hays State University. For any of you who haven't been at the previous news conferences, just quickly, kind of the ground rules. He'll tell us a little bit about himself. Then we'll open it up for questions from the media. And I have a handheld mic. We are going to require you to speak into the mic as a courtesy to everyone else so they can hear the questions and be able to understand the answers a little bit better. So with that, please welcome Dr. Mosier.
Well, thank you for this warm welcome. I want to just tell you what a great time I've been having in Hays during my visit here, and I think it's a tribute really to the hard work of everyone who's on the search committee, the university community, and the Hays community, who really come forward to put, what is really a diamond for higher education at Fort Hays State University in even better light. You're shining the light on it. It's sparkling like crazy. So I really do appreciate all of that. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the things that excite me about why I think Fort Hays State University is a university that is defining the role of higher education in the 21st century. It's a thing I think about actually quite a bit, about what does 21st century higher education looks like. It's evolving, it's changing from what we may have seen in the previous century. And a lot of things that are happening here are really the role model that you can find that globally we're going to have to deal with. If I look at the three parts of the modalities that take place in instruction, they really do encompass some of the same types of things that I've been considering in my own life about what has to take place. And the first of those is a very strong residential campus, where you have students, both non-traditional and traditional, who can arrive on that campus and explore their options about how they want to participate in the global economy. It's a chance to learn new ideas from faculty who are engaged in their disciplines in a very robust way. It's a way to share ideas with their fellow students. And it's a way to think about, what is it I'm actually going to be doing with my life, how I'm going to contribute to society. That core mission of universities and higher education, I think, is robust. I think in the last few years you may have seen commentary and things that have taken place nationally and globally that would make people question that a little bit. But talking to a member of the administrative team, some members of the administrative team earlier, I will tell you, I think we're all bullish on what the nature of the residential campus is going to be in the coming years. So that is a core mission, I find, of any university, and I want to applaud how Fort Hays State University has really embraced that and create such a valuable educational environment with that residential campus. The second part, though, is something that you must deal with, and that is the technology side of things. Technology changes the things we do in every kind of business, any kind of enterprise, any kind of organization that we work in, ranging from the fact that I'd like to run away from my smartphone sometimes, to the idea of how do you communicate around the world when you have the opportunity to deliver programming around the world. And Fort Hays State University is a world leader in developing the distance learning technology that's needed to serve not just the citizens of Kansas, but citizens of the region and citizens of the nation and people from around the world. And that distance technology is not going away. It's going to become an increasing part of the things that we do in universities. But Fort Hays State has been really great at trying to lead the charge on that. And the third thing that has really been adopted as a modality at Fort Hays State University is the idea of globalization. The Chinese organizations, the universities in China where students are able to earn a Fort Hays State University degree, the active engagement with those students, the active engagement of faculty from here with those students, really is important because, as we all know from the famous Friedman book, The World is Flat, and it's increasingly becoming that way. I always like to say that I think in Western Kansas we've always known that the world is flat, that you can see it when you look out the window sometimes, but it is really true in terms of the types of engagement that you have to have globally now, because it is a global marketplace. You can open up any kind of small shop and you're still going to be subject to what those global economic influences are. When we're dealing with a lot of production agricultural issues in the western Kansas, when you're talking about commodity pricing and stuff, that's all part of a global economy. And so we have to embrace that understanding in some way and understand we're all going to be subject to it. So those are the things that I wanted to point out that I think are really exciting about Fort Hays State University. I do want to talk to you a little bit then in addition to that about what I see as the future of universities, about things that we have to define more, and some of them are going to be somewhat repetitive, but they are things that I embrace in terms of some of the things that I've been trying to do. Fort Hays State University has adopted a culture and a tradition of student success as a central part of everything that takes place here. Student success is still going to be the core mission of any university, no matter where you are. And you can take the biggest research university with the most amount of funded research, where everybody is splitting atoms and trying to really further the frontiers of knowledge. Or you can go to a small private teaching university supported maybe by a church-related organization. At the end of the day, the reason we're here is because we're about building the knowledge base, and we're about trying to prepare the next generation to come in and how they're going to take our society and move our society. And so I think the idea of student success is fully ingrained here, and it's a thing that I personally embrace as well. And it's a thing that continues for a lifetime. It's the students that you bring in, it's what you do with them in terms of career services when they're leaving, it's what you do with them as alumni as they progress through their career, and it's what you do with them when they're looking to seeking to support the next generation. Okay, as they're looking at philanthropy and supporting the university in different ways. So student success, I think, is going to continue to be very, very, very important. Second thing I've already mentioned is globalization, and I've kind of given you the reasons why I think that's important. I think more and expanded activity in globalization is important. The numbers of students that come from different places. I've been telling a number of groups that, the thing I always have remembered when living in western Kansas is that this was always a global place anyway. That all of us, or most of us, came from different places, and most of us identify with family names and traditions and cultures of those families that first immigrated to the United States and came to western Kansas and put down roots and built the cities and towns that are all across western Kansas. And so I think it's continuing a great tradition of globalization and international engagement and understanding how different cultures work. So I think that's a very important piece of what has to continue. Another part that I particularly embrace is the role of the university in economic development. Economic development has a lot of different hats, and you can look at it in a lot of different ways. I mean, I think in a university sense, the first thing we look at for economic development is providing a skilled and educated workforce for the industries of tomorrow. So it's students who get out and know exactly where things are moving at that point in time. It's the continuing education we can provide to businesses and industries that are around the region. But it's beyond that, because it's also providing an outreach and service to businesses that already exist about how we can take the knowledge that's created or learned or studied in the university and take it out to those various parts of the community and the region and explain how we can help make things better. So I really like the idea of the university being actively engaged and connected to the community and to the region and working in economic development areas. A fourth one that I always particularly embrace is the idea of sustainability. Now, sustainability is one of those words that is sometimes fraught with meaning, depending upon how you look at it. I have a very broad meaning to what I talk about sustainability. And when I look at sustainability, it's things like, how do we make best use of our water resources? How do we make best use of our energy resources? How do we make sure students graduate with a strong sense of ethic about what their role in husbanding our resources might be? How do we make an active, engaged community? Those are all part of the broader umbrella of what constitutes sustainability. And sometimes people will have a tendency to think, well, that's just an environmental issue, or that's just, about, endangered species or things like that. But it's really a much broader topic, and it has to do with how we're going to move forward. Different things that are going to make life better for us as we try to make this a place where people want to stick where they want to stay. They want to come here and go to Fort Hays State University, and they want to build a life and a business here and stay in western Kansas. So those are all parts of the sustainability initiatives that I think universities have to be a part of, and we have to engage the public in those conversations. And the final thing I want to just point out to you is that the core of any university and the heart of any university are its faculty. The students are here for a few years, and then they graduate, and then they go on, and they do their things, and they come back, and they support, and because they know the central mission of what we're doing. But the faculty are the ones here who are really the heartbeat of what takes place in a university. They're the ones who actively engage the students. They are the ones that are trying to prepare the transmission of knowledge that goes forward. It's what students remember when they graduate. Old Professor Jones or Smith or whoever really made a difference in their life. And so we have to make sure we maintain a structure where we strive for faculty excellence in all of its guises. And for me, all of its guises includes really three things. And this is fairly common in a university. The instructional mission will always be front and center. It will always be front and center. It has to be about the students and the student success. But beyond that, the faculty actively engaged in some form of creativity or scholarship. It's not necessarily research in a way, but it's actively engaged in their discipline about what scholarship means so that they can know what the new and latest things are going to be and carry that forward. So scholarship's incredibly important. And the third thing that really contributes to the idea of faculty excellence is the idea of outreach. And that is the faculty themselves being engaged in this endeavor, outreaching to the community and to the region and helping in all of these endeavors. Because you have to do it as a team. It doesn't do any good to just have me standing up here saying this is a great thing. It involves the faculty and the people on the ground who are actually out there making it happen. So I think all those things are in place at Fort Hays State University. It would really be a pleasure to help moving those things forward and continue with those initiatives. But I'd just like to conclude my comments by saying I'm really happy to be here, and I'll answer any questions.
Who has a question?
Yeah. Larry.
Always. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. You always knew I asked questions. Done a little research on you here.
Yeah.
And some of the things that were kind of interesting that I studied about you is that you began a corporate partners program with several different companies in Reno as dean of the school, and let's talk about that. Also, let's talk about how you tried to get students involved by developing a business student council. Mm-hmm. Next, another question I had is about your outreach programs that you were trying to do with universities in Great Britain, Mexico, and China.
Yeah.
Talk about those.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're not asking these. Okay.
I was just going to ask him if he was going to try to find a second Colin Kaepernick.
That would be good. That would be good. Colin Kaepernick is actually a really great gentleman. He's a really great guy. But yeah, he graduated from the college in Nevada. Corporate Partners Program, actually, that's a great program that we started out at the University of Nevada in the College of Business. And the goal of that is really several-fold. And part of its image and halo effect, because I fully embrace the idea that what we're doing in a university is we're providing next generation of workforce that's going to work in industry or business or starting their own businesses. And with the Corporate Partners Program, what we did is we went to the major employers that are in the region. It's beginning to expand a little bit. We're moving out of actually the immediate region into a much broader one. And it's an interesting sales point when you do that, because there are certain companies that buy in immediately because it's like I say, they get it. You go to them and you say, Microsoft would be one of them. And I went to Microsoft, and Microsoft's a great organization. And they understood they would need a high-skilled workforce. They need people with degrees. They need people to come to work for them there. And so they will buy in. Others, it's a little more, they need to see the proof, right? About that this is something they needed to really be engaged in. So we expanded that program to 12 companies currently that are engaged in it out at the University of Nevada. They pay an annual subscription, so there's a philanthropy piece to that. It's actually, there's a revenue that comes in off that to the College of Business. And we dedicate most of that revenue, not all of it, and this is clear to them because they're on a board that actually gives us advice on things, so it makes it a true partnership. But most of it's dedicated to career services functions, where we try to get the students engaged in internships, place them into employment opportunities, make sure we carry the message. The halo effect we get is, and I tell them this when we recruit them into the program, is that we want to stand shoulder to shoulder with you as the major employers now. We don't want to see a wall between what we're doing in the university and what you're going to do in your employment arena. One of the more interesting things that kind of relates to all that, my most recent corporate partner, we actually have this small facility in the College of Business building that I dedicated for them to run a 24/7 call center of technology assistance for their internal internet of their company, and it's global. And they've hired 20 students who work in there 24/7 who are making a significant amount. It's like $15 an hour, but it's a pretty good pay rate. And so I have students employed, they're 24/7, they're learning technology, they're learning about the company, and actually the company's drop call rate on that thing dropped to less than 0.1% when they did all that. So they're happy, I'm happy, the students are happy, it shows the active engagement, and so it's worked out incredibly well with that particular partnership. So it's a great program. I mean, it's really a great model for things. It's not the only answer, though, because a lot of the students aren't going to go to work for a big company like that, and there happens to be a lot of those big companies out there that we can recruit to. So there needs to be a tendency to develop other types of programs as well, and that's where things like innovation and entrepreneurship really step to the fore. It's how do you manage things. You quit teaching things so much in a business college, like imagine you're the manager of a Fortune 500 company, and you start saying, assume you're going to open up your own business, and here's where the economic and financial things are that you're going to be encountering as you go along with that. And so we've also at the same time developed an entrepreneurship program that's kind of addressing that particular side. So it gives the students the opportunity to explore what it is they want to do on either side of that spectrum. So that's corporate partners. The Business Student Council, it ties directly back into my really strong belief that, well, first of all, most of us in higher education know that an engaged student is the one who's most likely to succeed. You'll find that if a student comes to a university and they don't know anybody, and you don't find a way of introducing them to other students and faculty so that they actually have a connection with that university, that they're much more likely to drop out. Retention rates are directly affected by an engaged faculty and engaged students. It's a manpower issue though, right? I mean, how many people can you hire to be on your staff to be engaged with students? I mean, Student Services does a great job, but there are thousands of students here. And so one of the ways you do that is you develop more and more student organizations within your college, within your higher education institution. And that way, what can happen is it's an extracurricular thing. I actually happen to think the extracurriculum is way underutilized in universities. You don't necessarily have to give students credit for everything they get a learning experience out of, but you need to manage what's taking place in terms of that learning experience. And so you get the student groups up and running, and it really creates a buzz that's independent of what you may be doing as an administrator or as an official university entity. And that's what the Business Student Council did. I didn't have one, there wasn't one there when I got there, and it's an umbrella organization that we've actually created additional student organizations because they're the umbrella, and so other ones for discipline-specific things. They host annual thing we call Business Week, which is a kind of a celebration of what business is about. And then we also host an annual Honors and Awards banquet where we recognize outstanding students. Completely student-driven. Because the greatest thing I find in the world is when we go into the Honors and Awards banquet, I got 300 people in the banquet, and the corporate partners are there, and we're recognizing the outstanding seniors. And I know everything about that banquet, from the program that's been printed to the program as it's going to play out, and the awards that have been made, was done by students. We had one staff member standing behind giving advice if they needed it. But that's a really great experience for students who get to do that, and it gives them a kind of life skill that they might not get otherwise. So those kinds of activities, more student groups are always good. You had one more, and then you got cut off. Oh, yeah. Again, globalization, right? It's all about globalization. I mean, you got to know what's going on in the world. And I like to pick off ones that I think are most relevant. And China is clearly a very relevant country for the United States to be dealing with. Where I am currently, that we have a major partnership with Lanzhou University, School of Management, which is in Lanzhou, China, out on the Yellow River in Gansu Province. It's a pretty robust program. We just had 45 of their executive MBA students who visited our campus. I'll be back over there this summer, visiting with them a little bit, trying to get more, particularly focusing on faculty exchanges that we're moving back and forth. We have another exchange agreement with Fudan University in Shanghai, which is really more of a student focus, and that is typically involve more students from Fudan coming to Reno and attending the university there in our MBA program. The second thing that I think, other than China, there's actually two other countries I think are very essential on this, and Mexico is a place where we really need to pay lots of attention about what's going on in Mexico. And there are some remarkable things going on in higher education in Mexico. If you're looking for a role model for what the future might look like, Mexico might be the place to look. My partner there is Monterey Tech University with the Chihuahua campus, Chihuahua City. Monterey Tech is probably the best regarded, highest ranked university in all of Central and South America. Has 36 campuses all across Latin America. Thousands and like tens of thousands of students that are engaged there. The mothership, as it were, is in Monterey, Mexico, but the Chihuahua campus is absolutely incredible in terms of the stuff that they're doing in innovation and technology transfer and entrepreneurship. And so we've partnered with them, and that involves a lot of faculty exchanges. We've had professors come back and forth and some students and doing that.
How many?
Usually it's only in the order of a dozen. It's no more than about a dozen from any of those. And actually, and in some cases, it's harder to get the students from the United States to go to Chihuahua. I also have two partnerships in state of Mexico, around Mexico City, that we just inked this last fall, so we haven't really moved forward on those. I'll just mention real quickly two other places. Just signed an agreement. We're going to have a partnership agreement with Technion University in Israel. That's one of the leading entrepreneurship universities in the world. You may have heard about it because it was actually the partner with Cornell to build the new university in New York City. And Technion is absolutely amazing. It's on Haifa, and we're going to actually have probably 25 students from the university studying there this August about entrepreneurship in Technion. The one that's actually near and dear to my heart is Canada. I actually teach a class in Canada. I usually take somewhere in the order of 15 to 20 students there a year to Toronto. And I'll tell you the reason why it's near and dear to my heart, because if you look at any of the statistics and numbers out there, Canada is the United States' #1 trading partner. It's the biggest trading partnership in the entire world. I think that really resonates here because you look at the prairie provinces and you look at the nature of the agricultural production that takes place in Canada, and I mean, it's very closely connected to what we do around here. So Canada, I think, is something we have to pay very close attention to.
Next.
Hi, Dr. Mosier. Thank you for coming. First of all, what makes, from your perspective of being here on campus and doing your research, what makes Fort Hays State unique? And second of all, you know, you talk about all those visions that you have and everything. Where do you see, if you were to get the presidency, where would you see this university going in 20 years?
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, the admirable thing about the place is really it's the quality of the people. I mean, you know, it's what I always remembered about, which made Western Kansas home to me, is it's the quality of the people, and it's all the people that I interact with and have been interacting during the days that I've been here. And it's the understanding about the role of higher education. I'm gonna make an obscure reference, which I probably shouldn't do in a news conference, but I was telling a group earlier, there's an old movie with Henry Fonda called Spencer's Mountain. And if you've ever seen that, at the very end of the story, it's talking about a first-generation college attendee who's going to go off to college. And you know, I think a lot of ways we in Kansas appreciate that kind of an expectation about what higher education can do for you. It's the idea it's going to make your life better. That's one of the little lines I always give my faculty. I feel like I'm in Hill Street Blues when I do this. The guy used to say, "Be careful out there," at the end of the little introduction. And that's, I know for many of you, you're too young to remember that reference. But I'll tell my faculty at the end of every faculty meeting, I said, I just want you to remember that there are 3,000 students in the College of Business that are going to be here starting at school tomorrow because they think we can make their lives better. And really, if you boil it down, that's why people come to university, isn't it? It's they show up here because we have told them, and they're convinced, and they believe that we can in some way make their life better. Because otherwise, they'd be doing something else. And so I find that this type of environment and this type of culture and the types of people are here actually share that vision about that's what the purpose of this university is. It's to make people's lives better. And it's almost a calling in a way rather than a career or a profession. It's like, how am I going to make it better? So I think, you know, what you're going to do is, again, an excellent university. Incredible things that are happening here, a role model for many, many other places around the world about what really needs to be done. But the question is, how are you going to make it better? And what's going to be the next thing? What's going to happen when technology changes? What's going to happen when the economy goes up and down? What's going to happen, you know, as finances change? How do you continually strive to make the place better? And so that's what I would tell you a vision would be, is better, okay, in all its guises.
We were 5 minutes late getting started, so we'll take one more question.
Oh,
okay. As a lot of us know, in the last decade or so, the humanities in higher ed have just been under assault from many fronts. We have a lot of students who aren't interested in being entrepreneurs. They want to be writers and historians.
Yeah.
So could you talk a little bit about your commitment to the humanities?
No, this would probably be something we'd want to have a very long conversation about, because actually I think if you want to be a writer or a creator in the arts and things like that, I think that is entrepreneurial. It actually in many ways defines entrepreneurship. And what I think it involves, it's trying to draw those kinds of connections, because what you're finding, and what I'm finding at least in terms of this generation of new students who are coming out and everything, they're really starting to take a look at places about quality of life issues. And it's not so much about, do I have a job? Because for the most part, they're willing to hop jobs. They're not saying, oh, I'm going to go get a career and stay in there for, you know, the rest of my life and get a gold watch. They're asking the questions, is there, you know, the coffee shop where I can go down and have a discussion about philosophy with some people of like mind or a different mind so I can learn something. And so what I think really what needs to happen on that is it's a meeting halfway has to take place. And that is taking the humanities into a more of an outreach model about how do you serve the cultural needs. And I mean needs, the cultural needs of a society by bringing the humanities out into that society. And you do that with faculty. You do that with people who, just the three things I mentioned, who teach the classes, who do the scholarship, but also do the outreach. And so it's in all its guises, right? It's art exhibits, it's performance art, it's writing, it's how do you tell the story of Western Kansas? You know, I mean, I believe it or not, I've spent a lot of time reading history of Western Kansas, and you know, you look at the variety of places, and what I'm always coming away with is, you know, there's this place I know of, and there's no story out there that anybody's written down about it, but it's, you know, something close to me. And so I think it's how do you make yourself relevant to the community that's around you? And I think that's through that outreach mission. But I think it's a key part of what the university has to be. I think, you know, you can't just go off on the, we're going to provide the skilled workforce alone, because what the student wants is to be skilled, but also then to have a life. So that'd be my short version. But that's, again, we ought to have a cup of coffee and take a couple hours, and we could, yeah, that'd be good.
I wish we had more time, but we don't. Thank you, Dr. Mosier.
You bet.
Thanks to all of you for being here.